Other news now, the Justice Department is taking action against the new law in Texas that bans almost all abortions. A lawsuit filed today in federal court calls the abortion ban a violation of rights and asks that the courts rule the law invalid.
Yeah, this new rule makes abortions illegal once a fetal heartbeat is detected, and that usually happens around 6 weeks after conception, before a lot of women know they're even pregnant.
Yeah, courts have blocked other states from imposing similar restrictions. Joining us now is Santa Clara University law professor Bradley Joondeph. Bradley, thank you for being with us tonight. Why is this so different? I mean, for decades now, red states have been trying to, basically overturn Roe v. Wade.
Well, what's unique about this law is that the state actually is not the one that is going to be enforcing it, but instead what it does is it deputizes any person in the state of Texas to file suit against someone who provides or even aids or abets anyone to obtain an abortion. So that's what makes Texas's law so much different, so hard to challenge compared to all the ones that have come before it.
So I'm a bit confused, because if you deputize someone, if you make this law that they can snitch and then make money off you, how is that constitutional and how is that legal?
Well, so there are lots of laws that create what we call private causes of action. What happens normally, though, is that an individual is actually injured when they bring suit. So a law might say, if you are discriminated against in some way, you can sue, say, your employer for having discriminated against you. Well, if you're the person who's been discriminated against, then you have a personal injury that you can sue to try to vindicate in a lawsuit. What's different here is that effectively the state of Texas has given its own sovereign interest in the protection of fetal life and delegated that, granted that to everyone in the state of Texas to vindicate on behalf of the state. It's not unheard of, but it's never been done in an abortion law before, and it's creating all sorts of difficulty in finding a way to challenge the law before it goes into effect, because it's impossible to know who might bring a lawsuit to enforce Texas's law, Senate Bill 8.
So the law is now in effect, and the Department of Justice, sued today. Where do you think this goes?
It's awfully unclear. There are now 3 lawsuits that are going on. One of them is the initial suit that went up to the Supreme Court a week ago that was filed by abortion providers in the state of Texas in federal court. A second lawsuit has been filed in Texas state court to prevent it from going forward or to try to halt it. And now this lawsuit by the United States against the state of Texas itself. Probably what's going to happen is at some point, someone in the state of Texas is going to try to seek this $10,000 bounty by enforcing the law. And that is going to provide the actual vehicle to test the constitutionality of the law. It's unclear when any of these lawsuits that are currently ongoing are going to provide a good procedural vehicle for the Supreme Court of the United States to weigh in on whether the law is actually, the substance of the law is actually constitutional.
So, of course, other states are looking at Texas law and hoping to maybe replicate it. What does this effectively do to Roe versus Wade? Does it negate it, or?
Well, it certainly makes it practically nugatory on the ground in the state of Texas for the time being, because no abortion provider, for now at least, is willing to run the risk of running up $10,000 penalties for every time in which they violate the law. So I guess in a very real on the ground sense, for the time being, Roe versus Wade is not the law of Texas, but formally it remains the law of the land. It remains good constitutional law, and it's going to be ultimately up to the Supreme Court at some point in one of these cases that gets up there to decide whether it is going to reaffirm Roe and Planned Parenthood versus Casey, the decisions that uphold a woman's right to terminate her pregnancy, or instead whether it's going to overrule them.
Well, they just took a pass. What was it, last week? So what's going to bring it to them again?
Right. So, but in that case, it was not the underlying merits of the law itself. What the court decided not to do was intervene and prevent the law from going into effect as a preliminary matter, again, because of all these procedural complications that are involved in the case. So the court was just saying, for the time being, we're not going to jump in as an emergency matter and prevent the law from existing and being enforceable. Again, we need a case in which we have a proper plaintiff and a proper defendant to make its way through the system, probably through the Texas state court system, and then go up through there to the Texas Supreme Court and then to the Supreme Court of the United States before it would have an opportunity to actually weigh in on the underlying question of whether it violates the substantive right to abortion.
I want to pick your brain on another topic really quick while we have you. I'm sure you're aware of President Biden's speech today about mandating vaccinations or requiring testing for lots of different areas of this country. Surely, I would think there would be lawsuits challenging that. What is your take on where that heads?
Well, I think for the most part, these sorts of requirements are perfectly lawful. I think that the only question will be whether the federal government has authority under existing occupational safety laws to take this particular action. Generally speaking, requiring that every workplace be safe and having safety tied to vaccination from a very deadly disease, none of that's controversial. The only question will be, has Congress actually passed a law that enables the administration to do this? There's no question Congress could do so. The question will only be whether in the laws that it's already passed, whether it has in fact done so and given OSHA this authority.
A lot to think about, and especially in light of the whole opposition and discussion about my body, my choice, and the juxtaposition of these two things right now that we are grappling with as a country. We hope to speak with you again. Thank you for helping us to understand this. It's not over tonight, but thank you very much, Professor.
My pleasure.